Huddle with paperplusoffice.co.nz, your local office supplies specialist, now open for business.
It is now 22:06. Josie Pagani is back with us. Hello, Josie.
Hi, Larry.
And Cameron Slater from Whale Oil. Hello, Cam.
Hey, Larry.
Josie, issue number one, the Labour Party leadership, Cunliffe, Robertson, Jones. Now, I tend to believe or think that it'll be between Mr Cunliffe and Mr Robertson, but I think you fancy Jones, do you?
Well, I'm just looking at the brand or the pitch that they've all got. If you look at it, you've got Grant, who's pitching pretty much internally as the unity candidate, and he's trying to invigorate that the party base. You've got Cunliffe, who's given a sort of passionate lefty message about strong and fair New Zealand, and he's out there to say, I'm the lefty candidate, and appealing to Labour Party and others who might want to come in from the left. And then you've got Shane, who's pitching a more traditional Labour base, if you like. I mean, he's rejecting sort of political correctness. He's out there saying, I'm the candidate for jobs and development, and he's out to get votes off National. So it seems to me that David Cunliffe and Shane Jones both have quite a clear brand there. They've got a differentiation. And I think there's going to be a problem for Grant, that he's stuck between those two approaches. He's trying to say he's the young candidate, the fresh face for the public, but I just think that it's going to be Shane coming in is a problem for Grant.
Oh, do you see it that way, Cameron? I mean, this is a certain shift to the left, isn't it, with Cunliffe or Robertson? Jones is a bit to the right.
Well, I'm told Robertson has got the EPMU's vote locked in, which is 7% already. He's got bizarre branding, lots of red triangles. He's also out there saying, look, his sexuality shouldn't matter, but then is claiming that he can't wait to be the first gay Prime Minister. So he's a bit confused on that. Either sexuality matters or it doesn't. But let's just run through them from my perspective. Look, I think Shane Jones would be a great leader. Exactly what Josie has said. He's the guy that can sit in the Cosy Club, in the RSA, in the pubs. He's as happy leaning on a fence talking to a farmer as he is drinking Chardonnay down at the Viaduct. And he'd, of course, be very much hands-on in his approach to the issues before him. David Cunliffe says this leadership contest is about the right pegs and the right holes. And that seems to be a bit of a backhanded attack on Grant Robertson, but he's the one who really is the natural leader in this, out of this whole lot, given that he enjoys being stabbed from behind.
You see, my information, Larry, is that there are a lot of people in that caucus, let alone that union, that 20% vote that comes from the unions, that are still waiting around. They're still having a look. They want to hear the speeches. They want to hear more from the candidates. I think it's all quite fluid at the moment. And that, again, is good for Shane, because if he can come out and be the candidate that's talking about, plan for jobs, for development, the sort of the traditional Labour voice. And it's almost like if you're saying that you're left wing if you support funding for the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, and you're right wing if you support building roads, that's just daft. And it starts to sound daft to traditional Labour voters who are thinking, hold on a minute, I thought the Labour Party was the party that built the roads in the first place.
Cameron, the interesting thing, I was reading an article by Rodney Hyde in the NBR. He believes that it'll be Robertson because you mentioned the union vote before, that they might split the caucus and the party vote, and it'll end up being the union that decides, and Robertson will get the nod there because he's in doggy deep with the unions.
Well, this is the thing that David Farrer on the second most well-read blog in the country has noted. The 20% union vote is actually much higher than the 20% that's stated because of the weightings. And the EPMU has a huge power advantage, and so does the Service and Food Workers Union. So it was interesting to see some of the lesser unions lined up behind David Cunliffe when he gave his almost Harry Potter-esque type speech there, the Master of the Dark Arts type speech that he gave, that he had some of the lesser unionists lined up behind him. Absent, of course, was Darian Fenton. She's going to lock in the Service and Food Workers Union, and absent was Andrew Little, and he'll be locking in the EPMU. And I'm wondering perhaps if Andrew Little hasn't done a deal with Grant Robertson to deliver those numbers and score the deputy's position for himself.
Come back in a moment. Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani on the Huddle at 16 to 6.
Larry Williams Drive with the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more.
Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani on the Huddle. Josie, let's stay with this topic in the meantime. I want to ask you this. The consensus seems to be that Mr Robertson being gay will not be an issue. Well, it may not be for the Labour Party, I don't know, but it could be for some Labour voters like the PI, Pacific Island churchgoers, blue-collar workers, social conservatives. That is a factor, isn't it, that could go against Mr Robertson?
Yes, I think you're right about. I mean, you've got the Conservative Pacific vote and the Labour vote. And in some ways, this is what I'm talking about with someone like Shane Jones, that the Labour Party, it's like it's been saying to people, we want your vote, or particularly to working class Pacific Island or brown voters, that we want your vote but not your values. But I think for Grant, I think he's right. I don't think being gay is the biggest hurdle he's got. I think the bigger hurdle he's got is that he's seen as a Wellington Beltway politician. As
policy wonk, yeah.
You've never had a real job, Josie. I mean, even you've had a real job.
Thank you, Cam. Well, lots of real jobs. I can't get a job in politics.
Exactly. You can't get a job in politics because you've got lifelong trough feeders like Robertson who have never worked a real job in their life since they left university.
Well, he's worked at Foreign Affairs. Yeah, but I mean, my point is that I think that'll be a bigger hurdle for him, that he's seen as somebody who's very good at doing the party palace politics, and he's got to come out and say something bold about what he'll do about the culture of the Labour Party and what his vision is that's going to be different, that's going to be a change. Right. And I don't see that coming.
His vision hasn't changed since the day he was made deputy, when he put his feet up on the desk and told his staff all he had to do now was sit there and wait till David Shearer stuffs up, and then he would be the leader.
No, I mean, that's not fair. He's a very talented politician. He's a great campaigner. I just think that, Larry, that's the bigger hurdle he's got to cross.
Cameron, this issue, the Prime Minister's daughter Stephanie has got a bit of attention. She's at a Paris art school. Her latest work is a series of self-portraits showing her naked apart from strategically placed items and topless biting on a cherry and those sorts of things. Obviously talented in what she does. What do you see in this?
Well, I can look at this from a couple of perspectives. One is as of a father of a daughter, and you've always got to support your kids in their endeavours. And John Key did that this morning, and he made a bit of a joke about it as well. She's an adult, but it is of interest to discuss the fact that you've got these photos. They're being used to highlight the school and the art show. That's fine, that's of interest, but there's more creepy aspects of it out there with the large, rather rotund overstayer German who's now putting all sorts of creepy messages out on Facebook, which is really rather unbecoming.
Uncharacteristically polite of you. You just usually call him the fat German. That was quite controlled for you, Cam.
I was being controlled.
But I agree with Cam on this. I think I've met her, and she's an extremely talented young woman. We should be talking about the fact that she's one of only 6 students who's going to feature in the Paris Design Week. Now, the fact that she's the Prime Minister's daughter should be irrelevant, but certainly, and I think actually New Zealand media has been really good about this. We haven't showed any sort of prurient interest in it at all. We've just gone, leave those kids alone. Kids are politicians, hands off. Yeah.
Hands off kids in politics. They didn't ask for their father to become the Prime Minister, and so you don't use the kids to get at the father, which is what Crim.con is doing. The sensible thing here, though, from Steffi Key's point of view, is that she's taking the opposite approach to most artists. She's actually using the connection with her father's name to get some much-needed publicity to launch her career. If she was, perhaps a Labour-supporting artist, she'd be out there with her hand out for some arts grants and some budget subsidies of some sort.
Now you're being political.
Yeah. All right. I got to go. Thank you, Cam, and thank you, Josie. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. NewstalkZB, it's now 9 to 6.